Try this again. I'd like to welcome all of you to this living teaching of Advaita. If you are online and would like to ask a question or make a comment, then instructions on how to raise your hand electronically can be found in the Is the microphone not working?
Yes, Wayne, I hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, all right. What is your name?
Sam.
Sam. Have we met before, Sam?
No, I'm from Australia.
I see.
Yeah. We're here visiting some family.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what brings you here today?
Just a part of my spiritual path, I guess.
Mhm.
Trying to find some good teachers, I guess.
Mhm. Have you been interested in this subject for a long time?
Not this specific one, no.
Uh-huh.
But I've been involved with this sort of stuff for maybe 6 years now.
I see.
Yeah.
So what brought you to this non-dual kind of teaching?
Wanted to keep learning more about it and see if I could glean any more wisdom that would benefit my path and my progress.
Mhm. So in your investigations up till now, what seems to be the stumbling block, or how is it that you find yourself feeling limited?
Letting go of the ability to contemplate and think, where versus just living from your soul's known wisdom. In terms of how that plays out in your daily life, in terms of how you earn money and how you survive, and sort of the practical aspects of fitting that in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of handing over, I guess, not control, but more submitting to the flow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how familiar you are with my teachings, whether you've seen videos or read any of the books or.
Just very briefly, some videos. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this living teaching of Advaita, this question of what it is that is responsible for you being as you are is kind of what we're looking at.
Okay.
So we start with, tell me your name again?
Sam.
Sam. We start with this Sam experience that you're having.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's undeniable. It's here.
Yeah.
And so this is a solid starting point rather than some philosophical notion of how things should be or how they are, you know, that the universe is this way or the universe is that way. But we come back to this quality of Samness.
Okay.
And start there and say,
Great.
okay, here I am. Here is this body and this mind that is operating. And part of the experience of Sam is be in the happen and kind of manipulate and is responsible for outcomes and things like that.
Yeah.
So there you have both of these experiences. Obviously, the experience of being in the flow is much nicer. It flows. It's smooth. It's even when there's difficulties, it's a flowing kind of experience. And there isn't that, what we call in this teaching, secondary involvement.
Okay.
So that's what the flow is, what we call primary involvement.
Right.
So there is both the quality of no involvement whatsoever, in which there isn't even the sense that I'm doing things, stuff's just happening. And then there is also the sense that I'm doing it, that lifting the glass or making the plane reservation, or there's a sense that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Self-referencing.
Yeah.
And then there is this third state, which is the one we're pointing at, in which this primary identification, the sense that I'm doing something, that Sam, gets hijacked by a sense that, what I call the false sense of authorship. Some people call it ego, or different words for it, but it's the sense that this I is an independent entity. I make things happen. I'm responsible. I have the power. It is mine, independent of everything else.
Yep.
That is this false sense which brings suffering.
Okay.
In the first two states of being in the flow, everything's cool, in which either there is no identification that I'm doing it, or there is primary identification that I'm doing it. Without the secondary, there is pleasure when it goes well, pain when it goes badly. That's pleasure, pain. It's a package. You get it for being alive. Be it physical pain, emotional pain. Pain. When the secondary involvement comes and attaches to the pain, now this pain, I'm responsible for it. I either caused it, I shouldn't have done it this way, I should have done it that way. It was my authored doing, and it is up to me to author some way out of this, because the universe isn't going to do it. I have to do it. That's the claim, and that's the suffering. So that's how the pain gets converted to suffering. That's the pointer of this teaching.
Okay.
So that's what we're concerned with. In this, you've wandered in here, and what we're really talking about and concerned with is this quality of suffering in life. The difficulties of life are simply as happening. That it comes with the territory of drawing breath. And you will have difficulties, and you will have periods of ease and comfort, the way it is. And there is no carrot being held out that if you do this, if you follow me, if you follow this way, if you purify yourself, if you become more spiritual, more something, or then you won't have the difficulties. That carrot is not here. Difficulties are acknowledged as being part of life. But suffering is something else. Suffering is it is possible for there to be a human life and human living without suffering. Because that secondary involvement, this claim of being independent, is essentially false. And when it is seen through, what is recognized is that what is unfolding is life.
Yeah.
Is that the unfolding of life? In all of its glory and all of its horror, it is the and what without the suffering, there is almost a quality of celebration of that. That this is what's happening. It moves to center stage. When the fantasy of what you will become moves off the stage, what remains is life. As it is. As it is for you, Sam, not as it is in some imagined context, but as you are experiencing it in this moment. Please feel free to ask it or share it or whatever.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens. Yes, Stanislav.
Я после нашего прошлого разговора
I wanted to
начал
ask,
как-то больше
after
ловить
our
себя на
last
том, что
talk,
когда
I
происходят
started
какие-то
noticing
неудачи,
more that when there's some,
я пытаюсь как будто так
like something that
отстроиться от этого, типа
goes
это вообще
wrong,
произошло не со мной, это не
like
я, это вот миллиард причин,
some,
которые привели к этому, я здесь ни при чем.
I try to sort of distance myself from what's going on and to say, oh, this happened by itself, like it wasn't my doing, when like I make like some sort of mistakes or when I'm
Это
unsuccessful.
же тоже часть
This
как
is
бы
also,
чувство личного авторства,
as
потому
I
что в
see
противном случае
the
оказывается,
feeling of
что
false
я как бы
authorship,
чего-то не могу.
because otherwise it would seem that there is something which I'm not able to do.
Подумал, что когда мы говорим вот про принятие,
I
про вот
thought that
всякие
when
такие
we
вещи,
speak about like
это
acceptance and
так
stuff like
хорошо
that,
звучит,
it just sounds so nice.
типа безграничное спокойствие,
Yes.
Like unlimited peace,
абсолютная любовь.
absolute
Э,
love.
Но как-то оно не так получается.
But sort of like that's not the way it plays out. It's not the way it happens.
Yes, but this absolute peace and this total love are not experiential in nature. The peace and love that are experiential in nature carry within them the seeds of their opposite. So we're pointing to something transcendent of that, not the experience you have of peace and love all the time. That is what is imagined. But that is not what we're pointing at. Yes, Albert.
Hi, Wayne. Yeah, I have I have a question about the concept, like your path to enlightenment. So I was watching Ramesh's video, and he was saying that he spent more than 20 years seeking for enlightenment, but then he started asking questions, what actually enlightenment can do for him.
Right.
And then he basically found enlightenment after he realized that he is actually looking for happiness and being comfortable with himself and with the others.
Yes.
So, but kind of analyzing your path, like the question is were you looking for happiness, or like enlightenment just happened to you without seeking, or what you were seeking on your path?
Well, the path, my particular path, I mean, where do you want to start it?
Yeah, I remember that it just happened to you that the alcohol stopped working, and yeah, so it was like a hard stop for you, so you didn't have a choice actually.
So if you want to start my spiritual path there, that's one way of talking about it. But Ramesh pointed to, he said, your 19 years of alcoholism and drug addiction was part of your spiritual path.
Okay. And
So,
if it
so we
earned,
can go back and start it when I started drinking at 16 years old. But we have to connect what I was at 16 years old to what happened in the 16 years prior to that. So really, my path began when I was born.
okay. And what you were looking for?
I was looking for different things at different points on the path. When I was born, I was looking for my mother's breast for sustenance.
Okay.
That was probably the first thing I sought.
So, but it was more like unconscious search, right? So, and you didn't know anything yet about spirituality and stuff.
When I was born,
Yeah.
that is correct, Albert. Yes.
But what was your like what you were searching for when you were introduced the concept of enlightenment?
My guess is I was looking for the ultimate orgasm, bliss, ecstasy all the time, every moment.
And it's not the enlightenment you found eventually.
That is regrettably true, Albert.
Okay, because when I was I think it was last year, I was on your retreat. Oh, the last year, yeah, in May. I went into that state of mind where everything was happening, but it did feel like bliss, and like not orgasm, but was very relaxed, very like in the flow, no suffering.
Yeah. And that was followed by what, Albert?
Yeah, it was followed a little bit of mind, and then yeah, a little. Yeah, so that means it was experiential, right? It was not.
Yes. And so, as in all of life, there is the swing of the pendulum, the swing between that which is blissful and wonderful and that which is painful and difficult.
And I understand in your teaching, you say everything is happening and nothing is in our hands.
I don't think I say that, but I point to that.
Yeah. You point to that. And but what I've noticed when the cause and effect, I've noticed that sometimes it happens spontaneously if I don't have a goal. But sometimes I do some techniques. So I do some kind of prep work, like meditation or walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it happens as a consequence in my understanding.
You can draw causal connections all you like, Albert.
Mm.
But the fact is that there is no direct one-to-one linkage.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's why I use the concept of probability, because I can do the work, I can do the prep work, and but the result is based on probability. It may happen, may not happen.
I agree. It may happen or it may not happen. That you don't need probability for that.
I use probability because certain actions have higher percentage of probability. So I try to increase the high probability actions.
Yes, Albert. Probability is only significant in large groups. Probability does not speak to the individual case. In the individual case, it either happens or it doesn't happen. Probability is a story you tell about it.
Yeah, but what I've noticed, a lot of people who,
Yeah, but
yeah,
Albert, probability is a story you tell about what happens and what is going to happen. You don't know in the next moment what will happen in your case. You only know that in a large group, there is this probability, a calculatable probability based on past events. And
yeah,
insurance companies are built on that.
yes, the scope. Yeah, I agree. You can get the scope of data based on multiple people, like insurance companies do, because
Yeah.
the pool of financial data and insurance coverage, the scope is they want to make profit on the, you know.
Yeah.
And but let's say, but for me, I take only my direct experience as a scope. I only consider my direct experience. Let's say if I do meditation, I only consider my data. I don't make a pool because I don't know what other people experience or what is their direct experience. I only analyze and factor in my data, my direct
I
experience.
understand. So in your case, you can say in the past, when I did this, this happened.
Yeah.
But you still don't know that in the next event, whether the next event will be part of the 99% or the 1%.
That's true. Absolutely true. Yeah.
That's the whole point, Albert. You don't
Uh,
know. So you tell a story, oh, the probability is this, but you don't know.
yes. But
In your case, what will happen next? None of us do.
yeah, that's true. However, that statistics of 99% gives me the confidence of continuing doing certain things.
That's another matter entirely.
Okay.
Whatever stories you can tell that work for you is great. And we all do it.
Hmm.
I'm I mean, it's very practical. And we quote, learn from our experience. We say, okay, I've put my hand in the fire before, it got burned.
Mhm.
Now, we can assign a probability to getting burnt if I put my hand into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. I say it's very likely that if I put my hand in the fire, I will get burnt. And so I'm not going to do that, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we don't know. I mean, there's fire walkers, there's people who walk on hot coals and stuff and they don't get burnt. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. There is no 100%. Yeah, we don't know.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
this
see what happens, Albert.
the reason I raised that question, because a lot of people, when they introduce that concept of I don't know, of like what happens next, I don't know, they completely discount the prior experience. And
Yeah. Well, that is not what I am suggesting.
okay.
Your prior experience is part of who you are.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We are a collection of our prior experiences.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to say that that kind of, if it arises, right? My stories, if they arise and they interfere with my experience, that's also part of the whole.
That's part of your experience.
Part of the experience. Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Of chat. Wayne, there was a question from Nikita in the chat.
Okay.
So here's the question. Usually, I didn't have problems which I didn't used to have any problems which could be called don't look back. But now one of them appeared, and for some reason I cannot manage it, although in the past I was always able to do so. And I'm interested, does this depend on me? The heavens always help, and I see all their plans, and I get like, I start making mistakes because if they help me and I continue to think about it, I lose my footing. I lose my grip on powerlessness because even if they cannot help, this means that I am the matter. And this means that I do not allow myself to give up this whole situation to God. Because it used to be that I was able to do so pretty well in the past. And since I think that I should manage it myself and not give it up to God. So the question is, does it depend on me or doesn't it?
Yes. It really is both. So it depends on you to perform or not perform the action. You are essential to the unfolding, to the happening. So it depends on you to exist for this to happen. The question the teaching raises is your existence dependent on you? Did you make yourself exist? And I don't expect an answer. But that is the question. The fact that Nikita exists in this way, with these qualities and these characteristics and this history and these potentials and these limitations, is that dependent on Nikita? Yes, Yulia.
Слышно меня? Здравствуйте. Мгм. У меня вот такой вопрос, связанный со свободой воли и выбора.
I have a
У
question
нас есть
about free will and
возможность
choice.
выбора,
We have
данная Вселенной. А с точки
we
зрения вот
have a
учения
choice.
недвойственности,
And from
что
the
там
point of
может быть
view
выбором или
of
как он проявляется?
your teaching, can you talk about a choice and how it happens?
Yes. I'll tell you a story. I was on an airplane. I'm often on airplanes. And the flight attendant came and asked me, she said, "What would you like to drink?" I said, "I would like a sparkling water with a lemon or a lime." She said, "Well, which would you like, a lemon or a lime? You have a choice." I said, "Well, if I have a choice, I'll have a lime." So she went and prepared the drink and came back with the drink and gave me my sparkling water, and inside was a lemon. And she said, "I'm very sorry. I got back to the galley and they did not put any limes on the airplane." So I had a choice, I made a choice, and I got something else. Sometimes I make a choice and I get what I choose. So my choice happens, and we can say the choice is part of the happening, but the choice does not create what happens. The choice is only one factor in what happens.
А если бы стюардесса просто ошиблась и принесла воду с лимоном, а лайм все-таки был, вы бы попросили снова ее то, что вы хотите, а не то, что Вселенная принесла в этот момент?
And what if the stewardess just aligns board and she just made a mistake and brought you the lemon? Would you have asked her to give you the lime?
I don't know. Maybe. Depends on the day, probably. How I respond to a circumstance changes from day to day, depending on thousands of factors.
А это не зависит от того, что у вас все-таки есть цель определенная, и вы хотите ее достичь. И эти отклонения нужно преодолевать и все-таки сделать еще один шаг, чтобы достичь то, что вам нужно.
Is this connected to the fact that you have a goal, a certain goal, and in order to achieve it, you have to take certain steps. And if difficulties arise, you have to put in more effort, but you have to get there. Like,
What we call a goal is a desire. I want something to happen. It's my desire. Now, what I do to make my desire happen depends on my nature, depends on the circumstances of the moment, whether I'm feeling energetic, whether I'm feeling sick, whether there's thousands of factors that determine what I do.
Но из них большинство будет отклонять это желание. И устремление все-таки к желанию будет какой-то выбор. Это делать, этому следовать или не следовать. На этом уровне, конечно, выбор будет. Но вот если... Не... Да. Вот он сказал, что много факторов может по пути быть.
you said that there are a lot of factors, but if I have a goal, to get to a certain place, I have the choice to like not to pay attention to these factors and like to keep moving towards my goal. Nevertheless, like, is that right? Like, isn't that the way we get what we desire?
I don't know. You tell me, Yulia. Do you get everything you desire?
Нет, конечно, потому что много
Of
отвлекающих
course not,
факторов,
because there are a lot of
может
factors
быть,
which
даже
like
могу
divert my attention,
отклонить, они сильнее
and they are stronger than
Поэтому
me.
вопрос, как же все-таки
So
достигать
the
эти
question
желания,
is,
что
how are
может
we
помочь,
to get
на что
these
обращать
desires?
внимание, на что
What
нет.
can help us? What should we pay attention to? What shouldn't we pay attention to?
Нету ответа, я понимаю.
There
Всё в
is no
моменте.
answer. Okay, I understood. So like everything is in the moment?
The point is that what I hear you asking me is, how do I get more power to control the universe so that I get my goal, I get what I want? And there are thousands of techniques, Julia. There's the power of positive thinking. There are exercises you can do to strengthen your will and your mind and your body. There are literally thousands of things you can do. And maybe something will work. I don't know. I can't predict. But if you look at your life, you may recognize what it is that enables you to do what you do in the moment.
А учение недвойственности может как-то помочь в этом?
Can this non-dual, the teaching, help here?
I don't know. My guess is that it will not help you to better manage your life.
Я могу вот предугадать, что, скорее всего...
No, Maria, you're... But it may help bring more peace and acceptance to what is happening in your life, be it positive or negative.
Мгм. Да, спасибо большое.
Pajasta.
Thank you.
Of course, Yulia could ruin your life too. I make no promise.
Or is there some kind of plan that's just unfolding?
Well, it really invites us to look at what we mean by free will. What does that suggest to you when you say free will?
The ability to do what you want when you want, I guess. Make your own choices. Yeah.
Like free to flap your wings and fly off, flap your arms and fly off a building, or I mean,
If that's what you want to
is
do.
that free? So your free will. Well, do you have the free will to fly, flapping your arms? This is the question.
Well, no, you would fall, obviously.
So what limits that free will? Because if we're talking about having unlimited free will, then we can do whatever we want. So what do we mean really by free will?
Choices, then perhaps of just what you're living.
I mean, whether to choose a lemon or a lime in your,
Yeah.
yeah, you're free to choose a lemon or a lime. You have the free will to choose. But whether you get the lemon or the lime,
Yeah.
is clearly you don't have the free will to make that happen.
Right.
So that's where we get this question of free will is kind of interesting, because we first have to figure out what the hell we mean when we talk about free will.
Yeah, I have noticed in some instances with some things in my life, I've just encountered a lot of resistance. So
Yeah.
I guess, like, how does that factor into free will?
I don't know. I'm having trouble coming up with a definition of free will in the first place to know how it affects it. So that's why I was encouraging you to try and come up with one, or some basis on which we can measure this thing, that, or I mean, know what it is we're talking about when we use the term free will. And it's a real conundrum. This is not the first time we've explored this thing. So what I'm proposing for you, if you can, is to give it some thought and see what it is that free will means to you. So when you say to follow your heart, you mean to have the ability to always follow your heart? That would, I don't understand.
Oh, yeah, that, yeah.
It's a tough one,
It is.
Sam. This is not an easy one. Because it is a term that we kind of frequently throw around, and we kind of assume we know what it is we're talking about when we say it, but when we really look at it, it's hard making any real sense out of the notion of free will. Because it means that I, Sam or Wayne, have the power, some will gain somehow the power to make my will manifest in all cases. That free meaning unlimited, all cases. So it's a very appealing notion that I can make anything I want happen because I have free will, which is another way of saying I have ultimate power. And so, do I have it? No. I clearly don't. Because if I did, my life would look very different. But it looks this way.
Yeah.
With lots of limitations to my quote freedom. I have enormous physical limitations. My body can only do certain things. I do not have the free will to bear a child. I just can't. I may desire to do it. I can't do it. For my own free will, I cannot bear a child.
Yeah, Wayne. I have a question
Yes.
about this sense of I am or I exist, this presence. Sorry for my English. Um, is this sense located inside the body, or is the body inside of this presence?
Yes.
What is? Which one?
Yes.
I ask this because when I feel this presence, this sense, sometimes there is a subtle little effort for
Yes.
feel it here,
Yes.
you know?
Mhm.
And in your presence, sometimes desaparece, dissolve.
Right. Yes.
It's more like feel more the context without
Yes.
the effort,
Yes.
you know?
So it's both, Carlos.
It's both.
Both.
Yes.
It is within and without, not two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe now help me more think like a context more than try to feel it here. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
You're welcome, Carlos. But
I
when
love
the
you.
feeling here happens, it happens
It happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as part of the
for,
context.
it's for to know better where to look.